Bertha Russell was once unstoppable. Every move she made was a masterclass in control, elegance, and ambition. She silenced her critics, outsmarted her rivals, and turned her family name into the very definition of success. But in the Gilded Age Season 4, her empire begins to tremble. Her victory over society came with a price: a broken marriage, a fractured family, and enemies waiting in the shadows. As whispers spread through the marble halls of New York, everyone is asking the same question: has Bertha finally gone too far? The cracks appeared at the end of last season. George's quiet resentment, his bitter expression as he watched his wife bask in her latest social triumph, it said everything. Behind the polite smiles and golden chandeliers, their marriage has turned into a cold war. Bertha's hunger for status blinded her to what really mattered. And George, who once adored her strength, now sees her as a stranger. In Season 4, that emotional distance explodes into something far more dangerous. Rumor has it that George's heart may no longer belong to Bertha. A new woman, elegant, clever, and cunning in her own right, enters his world. Some say she's a widow connected to the railroad business. Others whisper she's an old flame who's been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Whoever she is, she threatens everything Bertha built: her marriage, her reputation, and her sense of control. But Bertha is not one to surrender. Her pride won't let her. This time, however, she's fighting on unfamiliar ground. Not in ballrooms or newspapers, but in her own home. Every breakfast, every quiet glance across the dining table feels like a test. The love she once manipulated so easily has turned into a weapon that could destroy her. The woman who once made society bow may now have to beg for her husband's forgiveness. And if George turns his back completely, Bertha's glittering world could collapse overnight. Meanwhile, the city itself is changing. New money and old money continue to clash, but now the war is far more personal. Every social event feels like a battlefield. Every whispered secret could spark scandal. Even the allies Bertha once trusted, like Ward McAllister's old circle, are shifting their loyalties. The next generation is rising fast, with new faces who don't play by the same rules. They admire Bertha's success, but see her as a relic of a fading era. The danger for and as she struggles to regain George's trust, another storm is brewing within the Russell family. Their son Larry is determined to marry Marian, but the family name that once opened every door now casts a shadow. Bertha fears that a scandal could ruin Larry's future before it even begins. To make things worse, George's obsession with finding the man who tried to assassinate him still lingers. His investigation pulls him deeper into a web of corruption that reaches powerful men in both politics and finance. The more he digs, the more he realizes that the enemy might be closer than he thinks, perhaps even among his so-called allies. For Bertha, it's a nightmare she can't escape. She wants to rebuild what's broken, but her husband is drifting away. Her social circle is turning cold, and her name, once a symbol of triumph, is now being whispered in tones of pity and judgment. The woman who once ruled New York society is being quietly pushed toward exile. Yet Bertha Russell is not done fighting. Season 4 will test her in ways we've never seen before. She will be forced to choose between pride and love, ambition and forgiveness. And for the first time, she might learn that even in a city built on wealth, power cannot buy peace. As the curtain rises on a new chapter of the Gilded Age, one thing is clear: no one is safe. The golden world of privilege and power is beginning to crack, and when it does, the fall will be spectacular. George Russell has always been a man of principle, calm, intelligent, and fiercely loyal. But loyalty only lasts so long when it's betrayed again and again. In the Gilded Age Season 4, George finds himself torn between the life he built and the truth he can no longer ignore. After surviving an assassination attempt and nearly losing everything, he's no longer the same man who once supported Bertha's grand ambitions. Something inside him has shifted. The more he reflects on the choices that brought them here, the more he realizes that Bertha's hunger for power may have cost them their happiness. And in that emotional emptiness, someone new quietly steps into his life. Someone who sees him for the man he truly is, not just a symbol of wealth and status. This mysterious woman, rumored to be named Eleanor Worth, is unlike anyone George has ever met. She's elegant but modest, intelligent but soft-spoken, the complete opposite of Bertha's dazzling presence. She enters George's world through business. helping with a... When Bertha hears whispers of a new woman orbiting her husband, her world begins to spiral. The woman who once stood untouchable above all gossip suddenly finds herself the target of it. She can't show weakness. Not in public, not even in front of her closest allies. But inside, she's breaking. Jealousy turns to fear. Fear turns to anger. And anger into desperation. Bertha begins to use every weapon she has. Charm, power, and manipulation to protect what's hers. She throws even grander events, donates more to charity, and flaunts her position, trying to remind society and George alike that she's still the Queen of New York. Yet every gesture feels hollow because she knows that no amount of glitter can fix a broken heart. Meanwhile, George's investigation into his shooter leads him to a shocking discovery. Evidence points to a conspiracy inside the railroad industry, one involving some of his oldest partners. The betrayal runs deep, and as George digs further, he realizes that the attempt on his life wasn't just about business. It was personal. Someone close to him wanted him silenced. But when he tries to tell Bertha about his suspicions, she dismisses him, too focused on her social rivalries to see the danger closing in. This becomes the turning point in their relationship, when George finally stops trying to be understood and starts acting on his own. As George grows distant, Bertha turns to her children for comfort. Gladys' pregnancy, once her proudest achievement, now becomes her only light. But even that joy is under threat. Rumors swirl that the Wintertons, old rivals of the Russells, are planning to use the upcoming wedding between Larry and Marion to publicly humiliate the family. Mrs. Winterton, the cunning social climber who once worked as a maid, has returned with new allies and a dangerous plan. She knows exactly where to strike, Bertha's pride. And this time, she might have powerful backers who want to see the Russells destroyed. At the same time, Peggy Scott and Dr. William Kirkland prepare for their wedding, bringing a rare sense of hope amid the chaos. Their love story shines as a contrast to the crumbling marriages around them, yet even their happiness isn't safe. Dr. Kirkland's mother, furious over her son's choice, begins plotting ways to sabotage the union, manipulating society's prejudices and whispering poison into influential ears. For Peggy, who fought so hard to earn her peace, this new chapter comes as the season unfolds. The once perfect image of the Russell family will begin to unravel. The mansion that symbolized success may soon echo with silence, broken trust, and regret. George and Bertha, once the ultimate power couple, now stand on opposite sides of a battle neither of them can win. The same ambition that built their empire is now the fire threatening to burn it all down. And in the glittering streets of New York, where appearances mean everything, the question remains: will Bertha fight to save her marriage, or destroy herself trying to prove she's still untouchable? Because in this new season, power isn't measured by money anymore. It's measured by what you're willing to lose to keep it. In the Gilded Age, Season 4, Marion and Larry's wedding becomes more than just a union of love. It turns into the stage upon which every secret, lie, and betrayal of the Russell family will be exposed. The city is already buzzing with anticipation. Newspapers call it the event of the century, and society's most powerful figures are preparing to attend. But beneath the polished silver and silk gowns lies something far darker. For Bertha Russell, this wedding is her last chance to repair her fractured reputation. For George, it's the final test of whether he can ever trust his wife again. And for their enemies, it's the perfect opportunity to watch the mighty fall. As preparations begin, Bertha throws herself into the details with a feverish obsession. Every flower, every guest list, every note of music, it all has to be perfect. She believes that if she can pull off the most magnificent wedding New York has ever seen, it will prove that the Russells still reign supreme. But perfection comes at a cost. Behind closed doors, she's crumbling. Every time she looks at George, she sees the distance growing between them. His polite smile hides his resentment, and his long hours at the office have become an escape. When he's home, he's quiet. Too quiet. And that silence is deafening. Bertha knows something is wrong. She can feel it. And when she catches a glimpse of Eleanor Worth's name on one of George's letters, her suspicions become unbearable. Still, Bertha won't let her pain show. Not in front of the staff, not in front of her friends, and certainly not in front of Mrs. Winterton, who seems to appear everywhere these days with a sly smile and venomous charm. Rumors swirl that Mrs. Winterton is working behind the scenes to ruin the Russells' big day, using her influence to turn key guests away, spreading false scandals about Larry's finances, and even bribing suppliers to delay deliveries. Bertha senses the sabotage but can't prove it. The more she tries to fight back, the more desperate she appears, feeding the gossip she so desperately wants to silence. Meanwhile, Marion finds herself caught in the crossfire. She adores Larry and wants nothing more than a peaceful future with him. But she's quickly realizing that marrying into the Russell family means inheriting their wars. She's watched Bertha's elegance turn into aggression and George's warmth into cold detachment. Marion tries to bridge the gap, hosting small family gatherings, encouraging reconciliation. But her efforts only seem to make things worse. At one dinner, George and Bertha's polite conversation erupts into a heated argument that leaves the entire table silent. Marion excuses herself in tears, realizing that love may not be enough to hold this family together. Larry, on the other hand, is torn between his loyalty to his parents and his devotion to Marion. He loves them both, but the endless conflict is slowly breaking him. When he discovers that his father may be seeing another woman, he confronts him in private. The argument grows heated, and for the first time, George's calm facade cracks. He admits he's lost faith. Not just in Bertha, but in himself. The life he built feels hollow, and the empire he fought for no longer gives him peace. Larry leaves the room shaken, realizing that his parents' marriage might not survive the season. While the Russells struggle behind the scenes, their rivals are plotting in plain sight. Mrs. Winterton has aligned herself with influential figures from both old money and new, forming what the papers are already calling the Silver Circle -- a group dedicated to restoring the social order Bertha disrupted. Their goal is simple: to destroy the Russell legacy. And what better place to do it than at the most public event of the year? The whispers suggest they have something planned, something that will humiliate Bertha in front of everyone she ever tried to impress. But Bertha, even cornered, is dangerous. She begins to move in silence, gathering her own allies, including an unlikely one, Agnes Van Ryn. The two women, once polite adversaries, find themselves drawn together by mutual interest. Agnes has grown tired of the new social order, and while she disapproves of Bertha's brash methods, she respects her strength. Together, they form a quiet understanding, a truce that could change everything. Their alliance sends shockwaves through the social elite, and for a moment, Bertha feels powerful again. She might have lost her husband's heart, but she's not about to lose her crown. As the wedding day draws closer, the tension becomes unbearable. The grand ballroom glows with candles and music, but beneath the beauty is a storm ready to break. Marion senses it, George feels it, and Bertha, well, she can almost taste it. This is her final act, her last stand before the world decides whether she rises again or falls forever. Every smile hides a secret, every toast conceals a threat. And when an unexpected guest arrives at the ceremony, a face Bertha never thought she'd see again, everything changes. Because in the Gilded Age, nothing stays buried forever. The past always returns, dressed in diamonds and smiling sweetly, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The wedding day finally arrives, the day that was meant to seal the Russell family's legacy in gold. The city glimmers with excitement as carriages line up outside the Russell mansion, their lamps glowing through the misty New York evening. Inside, 100 candles flicker against crystal chandeliers. The orchestra hums softly, the air thick with perfume, envy, and expectation. Marion is radiant, a picture of grace and hope. Larry stands tall beside her, his nervous smile hiding the storm raging within him. And Bertha, dressed in silver silk, watches from the grand staircase like a queen defending her throne. She's determined that tonight will prove she hasn't fallen, that the world will see her power one more time. But as the first guests arrive, the whispers begin. It starts small, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Someone has leaked a letter, they say. A letter that should have never seen daylight. Within minutes, the rumor spreads across the ballroom like fire. Eyes turn toward George. Faces shift, glances dart, and laughter dies mid-sentence. Bertha feels it instantly. That sharp, invisible shift in the air that every powerful woman knows too well. Something terrible has happened. Then, one of her staff rushes to her side, pale and trembling, and slips a note into her hand. Her heart stops. It's a copy of the letter. George's letter to Eleanor Worth. The note is simple, restrained, but devastating. George wrote of his admiration for Eleanor's kindness, her intelligence, and how she reminded him of a life before ambition. There is no confession of love, but there doesn't need to be. Every line carries the quiet ache of a man longing for peace, a peace Bertha no longer gives him. The letter is dated weeks ago, and now it's in everyone's hands. Within moments, polite conversation dissolves into gossip. Did you hear? It's true. The Russells are finished. Bertha stands frozen, her face pale but poised, her mind spinning. Someone set this up. Someone wanted this humiliation to happen tonight. All eyes are on her as George approaches, his expression unreadable. He hasn't seen the letter yet, but when Bertha shows it to him, his face drains of color. "Who gave this to you?" he asks quietly. But Bertha already knows. Across the room, Mrs. Winterton is smiling. Not warmly, not kindly, but triumphantly. She's done it. She's managed to ruin Bertha at her most vulnerable moment. The woman who once cleaned her floors has brought her to her knees before all of New York society. The orchestra stops playing. The room falls silent. Marion, sensing disaster, tries to intervene, but it's too late. George, in a rare moment of fury, turns to Bertha and demands to know how the letter ended up in circulation. "You've made so many enemies," he says under his breath. "Now they're coming for us." His words cut deeper than the scandal itself. The guests pretend not to listen, but everyone does. Within minutes, the night that was supposed to unite two families becomes a spectacle of shame.